you're almost certainly at some point going to get wrecked. That's just part of the world of crypto. Unless you just buy Bitcoin and you're so you have so much conviction about it that you never sell it, you don't try to trade it, and you just sit on it for years and years and years, you'll probably be just fine. But if you do anything outside of that, you're going to, encounter some issues at some point, and you're going to have to learn how to navigate those. And how you do navigate those is kind of everything. So, the encouragement there is just don't give up when you do get wrecked, because that's a very valuable lesson. All my best lessons are when I lost lots of money.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a fantastic person with me. Andy, how are you doing today?
Doing great, enjoying some tea here, and I'm excited to chat about Bitcoin, crypto, life, whatever, wherever you want to go.
Andy has a fantastic YouTube channel. It's going to be in the link down below. Please make sure to subscribe and check his videos because they are absolutely amazing. But before we dive into it, do you mind to give us an intro and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so primarily do YouTube. I'd call myself a content creator across YouTube. I have a couple channels there. I put out content on Twitter. I'm a crypto enthusiast. I'm a passive income enthusiast. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. And I just like exploring all these weird things on the internet, these new opportunities where you can make money or change your life, or kind of whichever direction or path you want to take.
Fantastic. And how did you discover crypto? What was your journey into it?
The very first time I ever encountered Bitcoin was probably around 2011, 2012. I was big into like building my own computers, computer enthusiast. I was on a DIY message board online forum. A friend of mine there was talking about how they were using their graphics card to mine this thing called Bitcoin. And they're trying to explain it to me, and I did not really understand what they were talking about. And they were selling it every week. They're making like 8 or 10 of these Bitcoins every week, and they were able to sell them at the end of the week for $25 to $30. And I was like, this sounds like a scam. This sounds like it's made up. This doesn't sound real. Totally ignored it. Then 2014 rolled around, and I kept seeing stuff about crypto, and I was kind of like thinking about what are some side hustles and things I can do anyway on the to make some extra money. And I think it was on Reddit, I stumbled upon someone talking about mining Litecoin, building your own Litecoin mining rig. And so I thought, hey, I'll try this out. So I built my own rig in a literal plastic milk crate, because that's the way you did it at that time. And I was mining some Litecoin, couldn't quite wrap my head around what I was doing. It was a lot of like upkeep to keep it online. It wasn't stable. At the time, I'd gotten away from my entrepreneur journey, and I was working a full-time job. So it was a startup. I was doing like 10 to 12-hour days sometimes. Come home, this dumb machine that's supposed to make me passive income wasn't working properly. And so I just threw my hands up, gave up, sold all the parts on eBay, and wiped my hands of it. And then I did buy a little bit of Bitcoin in 2014, but largely I was not involved whatsoever until into 2016, beginning of 2017. Just kept being bombarded with it online, because inevitably, if you're like technology enthusiast, or you're into the DIY tinker space, or if you're into investing, you're going to encounter it at some point. And I just kept seeing it. So I'm like, is there something here? What is this? And so I started investigating, and that's when I kind of got sucked down the rabbit hole. So 2017, that cycle, I was all in, made so many mistakes, lost so much money, learned some hard lessons, but I did not give up. I just kept figuring it out. And then going into that bear market, 2019, 2020, made some great decisions. And then 2021, it's like everything is golden. We're all walking on unicorns. It's beautiful. And at this stage, I'm fairly all in the world of crypto. I'm very excited about what's coming. Obviously, I've now dedicated my entire professional life on YouTube, Twitter, wherever, to talking about it. So crypto is kind of the thing I think about more than anything else these days.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything you said. I feel like the price is always like the fire starter. Like we all get attracted by the gains, the shiny gains. And then the more you dig into the rabbit hole, the less you care. Because we even say one Bitcoin equal one Bitcoin, but you have to go through that, right? Myself included. The reason why I was attracted to Bitcoin in the first place is because I wanted to find something to invest and make money. That was step one. But then the more you peel the onion, I don't know if you agree with me, the less price actually matters.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like people who jump into this stuff, especially if we're talking about Bitcoin, they wait. The newer people wait till new all-time highs because it's exciting. It's in the media. Everyone's talking about it. So it's going to go even higher, and that shiny object syndrome. Surely, people who jump in like that don't truly understand what they're buying or why they're buying it. And those who do stick around after it crashes back down to earth and back to reality and start to actually learn about it, that's when the price becomes less relevant. Obviously, we all care, like, does it go up in value over time, however you want to measure that value? Yes. But I do agree that the longer you're in the space and the more you truly understand what you've gotten yourself into, because it's a lot that we've gotten ourselves into, the less the price is relevant, and also the more manageable it is to ride that roller coaster. Because when you're new in the space and you've just invested for the first time in crypto and you watch Bitcoin do an 80% correction in a bear market, I imagine, because I can still remember it once upon a time, that doesn't feel so good. But the longer you're in the space and the more you kind of research and read and listen to podcasts and videos and wrap your head around what you're buying yourself into, and if you actually do buy into that multiple decade long vision for it, you don't care because you know what the end result is going to be. We all hope, but yeah, I totally agree. It's like layers of an onion you're slowly peeling back as you go.
Yeah, and you said something interesting though, so probably I should rephrase it. You care in the beginning, the price is bothering you on a short term, and then it's still bothering you, of course, when you see your portfolio. That's a good point. Going down 80%, it stinks, you know. But then you think in terms of like years as opposed to months. So it does bother, but you move the post forward. So I think it's that. And also you said something else about learning, and I have never met anyone which is successful in what they do, he, she, they, whatever, and they have not made mistakes. Because sometimes people confuse mistakes. Mistakes are necessary, I think, because if you do something quote wrong and you learn from it, well then that's not a mistake because you learned something. But the thing about Bitcoin and crypto is that when you put your money into it and you slip, like they say in Japan, fell 7 times and stand up 8. The problem is when you put money down to those mistakes, for some reasons they are more, I don't know, they cut deeper. I don't know if it makes sense.
They cut deeper because people, who are especially novices in this space, get so excited about this prospect of I'm going to get rich overnight. This is going to, especially if you get into like the degen side of crypto, jumping into meme coins and crazy stuff that just is flash in a pan and multiple day long, things, and then that's gone forever. They get attracted to that, and then they overextend. They use money that they should have saved for their rent or their groceries or their normal life, because they ignore that those longer term needs, because they think short term I can flip this money into these huge sexy amounts. I can buy my Lamborghini or whatever meme you want to talk about here, and then they get burned and then they give up on it forever. So if you're able to survive those bad mistakes that I think we have all made to some degree at some point, and then reassess and then go about this whole gamble in a more calculated way. Because really, as much as I love Bitcoin, as much as I've drank the Kool-Aid, as much as I've put most of my net worth into it, it's still, I admit, it's an experiment. We don't know what the future is. We don't know the end result. I feel pretty confident in what that future looks like, but there is zero, it's impossible to know actually until we arrive there. So all of investing, even at S&P 500 index funds, one of the safest ways you can invest out there in the US at least, it's a gamble to some degree. So you're just picking and choosing that battle, that amount of gamble you're doing and how you approach it. So yeah, unfortunately, some people don't do that in a conservative or calculated way, or truly know what they're getting themselves into. And yeah, it can be disastrous.
I completely agree. There is always a degree of risk, even if you want to go down to the super self-custody route. Well, then you have a risk with yourself. Like, what if you forget the words? Like, there is always a degree of risk. I completely agree.
Yep.
What's your strategy into? Because you've seen a few cycles, of course. You are very well educated. I know I'm asking the impossible question because there is no such thing as perfect portfolio. It depends on many variables, your age, your risk tolerance. But how would you attack it? For example, 50% Bitcoin, 20% alts, 20% small caps. I would love to know how you are strategizing into this cycle that we are now.
Yeah. So, I mean, long term, Bitcoin is almost exclusively the only thing I actually believe in uh, multiple decades from now in the crypto space. I'm not a maximalist in that I believe that there can't ever be other things that also still exist in 10 to 20 years. But I'm just a realist in that there's 14,000 crypto tokens listed on a coin aggregator like CoinGecko. I can't imagine, 99% of those making it another decade or two. And we've seen so many ones that were in the top 10 that don't, materially exist anymore. So I just think this is, it's a grand experiment. We don't know what the future looks like, but Bitcoin, at least so far, has the track record. It has the momentum. It has the moat. It has the network effect. So in my mind, Bitcoin is my safety asset in the world of crypto. At least half of my portfolio is Bitcoin, and my view of why I want a substantial portion of my portfolio as Bitcoin. And some people would argue all of it is Bitcoin, but I'll explain why I don't do that either. Um, is if the riskier part of my portfolio, and again it's all risky, but the riskier part of my portfolio goes to zero, I still have that foundation in Bitcoin that is going to protect the value of it to some degree. Because even if all those altcoin positions go to zero and Bitcoin corrects 80%, I still maintain value, and I still have my Bitcoin. So I like to have that foundational layer, which, whatever that is for you, the listener. Maybe it's not Bitcoin, maybe it's something else. Your choices, your insights. But I recommend you have one. And then everything else on top of that is really kind of a means to an end. Certainly, I believe, again, that there are going to be other things that exist and that are successes in the crypto space. But for the near term, short term, I just view all those things as a way to get more Bitcoin. And so far, that strategy has worked well for me. So I dabble in the darker arts. I dabble in all the altcoins and various things. And with different strategies, I have different narratives and things that I kind of play within. But when it comes time for the bull run to be at its crescendo, at its peak, when euphoria is in full bloom and everyone's convinced they're going to buy a small island nation or something, that is when I want to be exiting all my altcoin positions, and then I want cash in my pocket. I want to move money into some of the really boring, really safe, quote unquote, safe assets like just S&P 500 index fund, or maybe even gold or real estate or something like that. But I also want to move money into Bitcoin, and that would probably take the form of me holding on to stables into the bear market and then waiting for bear market prices, or DCAing from that point into the bear market over time, but having stables available to me. And then I will probably keep a small slice of those altcoin bags over time, because you never know what's going to happen. And the really promising ones you can always jump back into in the next bear run, a bear market, because so far, unless this cycle is truly different and we finally see a super cycle or something like that, we're still in the cyclical crypto market where every 4 years we have the ups and the downs, and it's been fairly programmatic so far. And until it's proven otherwise, I'm going to keep operating as if that's going to happen in the future. So yeah, that's kind of how I view that. But the actual timing of it, it's you don't know until you're there.
Fantastic. I mean, we have a lot of similarities in here. I'm going to put a pin in there because I would like to spin it off and ask you a few more questions. But where do you think we are now in the cycle? I mean, some people are saying it's too late to buy Bitcoin, or I've lost my train. We've gone from 15,000, which I think it was the bottom. No financial advice, but I think it was the bottom, to almost 74, I think it was. So where do you think we are now in the cycle?
So as far as where we're at in the cycle, I think we're in that kind of no man's land that happens after the Bitcoin halving, but before we actually have the true Bitcoin bull run happen. And I think we're waiting on a number of things. One, the halving was only a few months ago, and traditionally in the past cycles, the halving effects of the halving, supply shock, the reduced block rewards, subsidies, all that good stuff, trickling into the market takes at least 6 months, but usually like 9 to 12 months for those effects to truly be felt. So we're ways away from that. Here in the U.S., we're waiting for interest rates to drop, which the Fed has promised that we'll do one interest rate drop this year, maybe. But we need more than that. So it's probably a 2025 timeline for that. Traditionally, also, the stock market here in the U.S. rallies around the presidential election, which is until the end of this year, 2024. And of course, the outcome of that will have its own interesting spin on all this. And we also need the money printers to go burr again. We need money, and we need those printers to put that money into the hands of people. Yeah, they haven't stopped going burr. It's been more on the banking institutional debt, building more deficit side of things. So we need that to find its way into the hands of people, which does come along with elections and promises and these things. So my timeline is sometime in 2025, beginning of 2025, if we're like really bullish on this, what's happening right now, but more likely maybe mid to end of 2025. That's where we're at in the cycle. And then, is it too late to get into this stage? Well, obviously not if we have another, almost year before things truly start, the fireworks truly start to happen. But also anytime people like talk about like, is it too late? Say it's too late to get into Bitcoin. I like to contextualize it. Bitcoin right now is a 1.1 or $1.2 trillion asset, which $1 trillion sounds like a lot of money, but gold is $16 trillion asset by market cap. Bitcoin, if it were to get as big as gold, would be over 800,000 US dollars per Bitcoin. The entire cryptocurrency market cap right now is under $2.4 trillion. Just the company of Nvidia is worth $3 trillion. Now, Nvidia has been kicking ass, so like it's worth. But this entire world that we live within, this entire world that we spend all of our time thinking about, trying to figure out the best ways to make money, reading the books and watching the podcasts and whatever, this entire world we live in of crypto is still smaller than a single company. So in my mind, it's just like it's insanity to think you're too late. It's just so incredibly early. The internet was invented in the late 1960s. By the time it found its way into the homes of people in the 1980s, the amount of users on the internet was in the thousands, like less than 10,000 people worldwide. It wasn't until the 90s and 2000s that it started to actually take off, and even then it was still just a niche thing. So it's not until the most recent couple decades that it's actually become a life-changing, worldwide, global part of our lives. So if it took the internet, and some would argue the parallels, but I think there's some obvious ones here. It's taken 60 years to take root and to change our lives. Bitcoin being only 15 years old, I mean, it's just barely a teenager. We've got many decades ahead of us before we see what the true adoption looks like. Will it become a world reserve asset? What does that path look like? I think we're decades away from seeing that come to fruition.
Yeah, super well said. I completely agree with you. It's interesting when you move your time frame, it makes a lot of difference. For example, you could say, well, it's too late if you wanted to buy $50 Bitcoin. It's too late if you wanted to buy $1,000 Bitcoin, because I don't think we're going to go back then again. It's too late if you wanted to buy $15,000 Bitcoin, because I don't think we're going to ever go down. But it's not too late if you want to buy a $70,000 asset, which is going to be in 10 years higher than when we are now. I actually think we are now more or less where the next bottom is going to be. So we still have that move. Let's say we just throw a number on the wall to see if they stick. Let's say if we go to 120,000, 140,000, we correct 50%. Well, there you have it, $60,000. So no financial advice, but I think we are now in a position where we might go a little bit lower into the 50s. Why not? But the risk to gain ratio is super positive, because you now have an asset which is $70,000 more or less, or $60,000 depending on when this video is going to be published, but more or less we are in that range. And if you purchase it, the chance you have we're going higher, I think it's bigger than the chance we're going lower. And even if we're going lower, maybe into the 50s or whatever, still we, like you said, I agree. I think next year is going to have to come. We have the election in November. Usually we call it Moonvember, Pumptober. Those are the best part of the year. And we just passed through June, which is the second worst month in terms of history and returns, September being the first. So there is summer, people go on holiday, things are going to calm down. And historically speaking, this asset is known for boring the crap out of people, doing nothing, going sideways. And people are like, yeah, it's done. Bitcoin, how many people they trade traditional assets? They told me, dude, it's never going to go to 100,000. We're never going to, it's done. We're now going to dump to 3,000, because they have not seen this beast. And like you said, think about it in terms of market cap. So I think it's an interesting point. At least I would look into educating myself into listening to podcasts, reading books like the Bitcoin Standard, for example, is one of my favorite, and just get to know what is this thing, which is what 3% adoption worldwide. So we are indeed early. But you touched something about the altcoin, and same page, I use altcoins to multiply my Bitcoin. Is there anything you have in your eyesight, in something you like particular?
Oh, I mean, I could go on and on about what
I know.
all. I mean, I'm in a lot of positions. I always want to be careful about this, especially if there's an audience of people who are really like strong Bitcoin people, because it's very popular in the Bitcoin only crowd to just call all altcoins a scam. They're all money grabs. It's not worth it. Just stay humble, stack sats, and don't try to trade or whatever. And I really struggle with this part of the dialogue because, yeah, there is certainly risk involved in jumping to the world of altcoins and trying to trade your way to more Bitcoin and stuff. I don't consider myself a day trader. I only trade on longer time scales. Most of the alt positions I hold, the minimum I hold for them is like 6 to 9 months or something. So I'm not even like doing trading on the daily because I think that is really risky. But I just feel like if you're somebody of modest means and you just have a single job and you're just trying to use a few of your dollars every month to save into Bitcoin, and that's all you're doing, that's great. And you're going to beat inflation. You're going to beat the S&P 500 over time. It's going to be a great investment. But why not take a small slice of that and do some asymmetric bets where you don't care if that money goes to zero, but what if it does a 1000x, and then you sell that and you get that much more Bitcoin, the thing you actually care about. I don't know. It seems like such a lost opportunity that so many people gloss over. And I feel like a lot of the people who really hammer in don't pay attention to that stuff. Maybe were in this space even earlier and they have such a substantial position in Bitcoin that it's not a big deal to them. They don't need to focus on those other things. But I think for a lot of other people, it's an interesting value proposition. So I focus there, and I do have a lot more Bitcoin because I have focus there, and I probably have more Bitcoin than certain people who reply to me who say Bitcoin only or whatever. So I don't know. I just like to challenge that idea because I think it's a worthwhile opportunity to investigate. Also, I think it's absolutely insanity to think that the only application for blockchain in this entire wide world we live in is just Bitcoin. And so if we talk about alts for a second, one of the reasons I say that is because one of the spaces I talk about on my channel a lot that I'm really bullish on is called dpin, decentralized physical infrastructure networks. And this is like a match made in heaven for the world of crypto. I've talked to and investigated a lot of different crypto projects that have Web 2 equivalents that they have far outgrown. And now they're, in terms of revenue, they are outgrowing because they went Web 3, they went crypto. dpin means you're going to have physical devices or physical nodes or physical hardware and antennas, various things that set up this infrastructure to build this network to gather some kind of data that is then marketable in the world. So one I just had on my podcast that I am really bullish on is called GeoNet, and they are taking GPS and GNSS satellite positioning data and making it more accurate. This is something that's only accurate down to about 10 feet currently, but because they have these stations placed all over the globe, they can get it down to the millimeter of accuracy, which is huge for cars and robots and robot lawnmowers and all kinds of applications. Their Web 2 equivalent has been building for 2 decades and only has 5,000 sensors globally. GeoNet has been building for 2 years, and because they have this crypto element to incentivize people to build the network for them, they now have almost 7,000 sensors globally. They've far outmatched the data capabilities of their Web 2 equivalent, and there's multiple examples of this. Another one I'm really bullish on right now because it's also really tiny market cap, and I think the value proposition here is wildly huge. It's called Tempe. Tempe is trying to build and they already have built it, but they're expanding on it, a web index. So Google, Bing, Baidu, all the big data internet companies have a web index. They send their bots out on the web. They crawl all the websites. They take a snapshot of all that information and data. A lot of them use it as their search engine, but there's a million other applications you can use it for. Really grouped into like 5 or 6 major corporations, and those are the people who have the monopoly over this data. Tempe decided to go the crypto route and have users build their index for them instead of deploying billions of dollars worth of data centers. And now end users run nodes. They run software on computers around the world, and these nodes do all the crawling for them. When their next round of nodes goes online next month, their index, their web index, will be bigger than Bing's. Again, Microsoft owns Bing. They're like a $3.34 trillion company. They do way more than just their web index. But just to show you like how quickly crypto can incentivize and help with adoption of building these networks, like it's just an amazing like value proposition for companies who are trying to build these data centric companies. And that's like a win-win-win situation, and crypto is the first thing that's been able to actually enable that so far. So will all these things exist in a decade? I don't know, but I think that it's so interesting and fascinating, and these things are not trying to be the next money. Bitcoin, I feel like, has that probably on lock, but there's lots of other verticals out there that they can exploit using crypto, and it might even be a much better way than the traditional ways to do it. So I don't know, if you're passing these things up, it's just crazy. But yeah, I can tell you about a million other altcoins. I don't know what your appetite is for hearing about this stuff, but yeah.
I love this. It's just like, imagine going back to the internet, which is a fantastic parallel. Imagine how many protocols, HTTP, FTP, IRC,
Yep.
those are the foundation of what we have now, but I cannot ignore it, not just from a monetary perspective, because some of those things are going to surpass Bitcoin in terms of like earnings. Like there are, even if you look into the charts, there are some moments where alts are outperforming Bitcoin, maybe for a couple of months. So it's like a wave coming in our way. You can decide to surf it in so many different ways. And I respect whoever looks into it and whoever tries different ways, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, which is more Bitcoins. So if you manage to have strategies, and all goes down to what is you like to do. If you love, if you enjoy, if you are a curious human being like you, myself, I don't have 100% of my portfolio in Bitcoin. I have many people in my network, people I've spoken to on my podcast, they are 100% Bitcoiners. And at the same time, I have people that are 100% degen. It's great as long as you do something that you want to do. Bitcoin and Ethereum, Bitcoin and Chainlink, they don't even compete with each other. They offer two completely different services. And I think, I don't know if you would agree with me, a bit of a weird statement, but I think all the altcoins, all the coins are a testnet for Bitcoin, because we will see in some areas layer 2, layer 3s on Bitcoin itself, because some of those things are going to go back into it. So by not acknowledging them, you're literally, I think you are shooting on your own foot, because if you think Bitcoin is going to be the only one, I agree with you, it's not going to be the case. There's going to be other companies, other people solving other problems, and there's going to be layers on top of Bitcoin, and they will get inspiration from it. Look at the inscriptions. The inscription came by because of Ethereum. So Ethereum was officially a testnet for NFTs, and people say, actually, you know what? This could be okay. And now we have inscriptions. So I think everything is dancing together in my mind, and I like to see, I'm a curious human being, so I can't not look into these things. I would like to ask you this question. I don't think meme coins are bad for the crypto ecosystem either, because they are attracting people. And at the end of the day, I believe whoever sticks around, you're coming from the meme, the altcoins, the NFTs, you will get to Bitcoin, because it's a vortex one way or another. So all those things coming out, I don't know if you would agree with me, it's like a marketing tool to basically show people how much important Bitcoin it is.
I think what you said, you're a curious person, the people around you, curious people. And I think that's the great tragedy of some of this. Obviously, if someone is a Bitcoiner, they are a curious person because they've expanded their brains outside the system. They've broken free of the system. They found this other thing. But the shame in it is that the curiosity kind of ended there, and everything else is just noise or whatever. And I can respect people who have focus, and just, it's not because they think everything is a scam. It's not worth. It's just they want to focus on the one thing, because there's just only so many things you can focus on in your life, and I get that. But when you focus because you believe everything else that could possibly exist is a scam, a waste of time, or whatever, that's where I'm like, that's the tragedy, because it's such a good thing going with your curiosity, wondering what's possible out there in life with technology and these various innovations. But then once you found one thing, you just stop there. So now you're no different than the people who came before you who dismissed Bitcoin. And yeah, I think all the stuff happening in the world of crypto is probably a net positive, because I know when I got into the world of crypto in 2016, 2017, more seriously, I wasn't a Bitcoin maximalist from the beginning. I didn't go, I'm all in, Bitcoin. That was interesting, but I was really attracted to all the other stuff. And that, after I learned some hard lessons, led me to, really study and learn about Bitcoin and go, okay, this should be, where most of my attention goes, but there's all these other things still that I think have opportunity. And so, yeah, like meme coins, love them. Lots of people hate on them, but shiny, fun things, like, if they have a place in the world and it's going to attract people. And who knows, maybe there's a world where certain ones with certain utility have some application that makes sense, or maybe they just are an adoption tool that is their utility to bring people into the ecosystem because they're attractive. I mean, I don't dabble in that world very much. I have one meme coin position that I'm actually pretty serious about, but beyond that, I don't really dabble in it. But I also don't dismiss it, because I see people who have lots of success with it. But I also see just how many first time ever crypto people that part of it brings into the fold. And even if just 10% of those people stick around, that is a net positive for the entire space and adoption.
I don't trade either. I invest. So my time frame is quite long. I like to buy good quality projects that I think, based on my research, of course. And I hate tribalism. Like, if XRP pumps, I have no XRP in my portfolio, I'm happy, because my dudes have made money. Who cares? Like, I don't have to hate on a coin because it's not pumping. That I don't understand. It's like, I do get it, because people are tribal anyway. If you look into all the sports like rugby, whatever, people have hate for whatever scenarios. So I get it, because we are creatures of habit, and this reflects into the crypto space. I have nothing but love. Whenever someone is selling fiat to buy crypto, they have my respect. Whatever they buy, I don't care. It's up to you. You can play it in so many different ways. The system who works for me is to buy things I believe into it, because they will drop, and when they do, it's harder if you have done no research, because you will sell the bottom. Most likely, you most likely will bought the top, because sadly, that's how we get in. We get in when the hype is on the street. You want to buy $100,000 Bitcoin. Look at now. We are at $60,000 and nobody gives a damn about it. Like 4 years ago, people were popping champagne. A few years ago, people were going crazy for 60K. It was the top, basically, almost. So it's crazy in perspective how things are changing quite fast. So it's fascinating to speak to someone like you that's very similar to me, by the way. You mentioned a sector you have interest in, a narrative you have interest in. I've not explored that per se. I've gone down to other routes. For example, I hold some Chainlink, which I'm a big fan of. I've been holding throughout the entire bear and bull market. So learn a lesson there, take profits, right? Because at the end of the day, it's so easy to be trapped by greed and or fear. Those are the two sentiments. They move everything in any market, right? And I didn't know what I was doing. So a few cycles before, I was like, oh, Bitcoin is going to $1 million. And we were at $3,000. And there were people equally waiting for that $1,000 that never happened. And then you experience those roller coaster. So I found that my way to be okay and sleep at night is having majority of my portfolio in Bitcoin. I have a 3-bag strategy that I call it, where I have bag number 1 is super long term, maybe like 15 years, 20 years, not touching it. I have another bag, which is my cycle bag, and I use to buy and gamble things. And by the way, I have an allocation with it. So I say, for this cycle, I'm going to give myself this much money, because I figured if I don't do that, I'll go over. It's like a budget thing. It's like I treat my Bitcoin holding as a business. So if I don't do these things, I'm not going to be disciplined, and I'm going to buy cat goes to the moon and a bunch of NFTs. And when you have your money into a MetaMask wallet, 2 clicks away to lose everything or to invest everything, because it's so
Crazy,
easy.
yeah.
And the third bag is the bag I speculate the most with, where I go like deep, dirty, filthy degen, and I go into some short play, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, depending on the project. It is how I found my space to balance it. But I actually separate wallets physically so that I don't contaminate one another, right? Because it's like if you want to go to the casino, you don't want to go with a casino with the entire money on a bag, because that's a way to lose everything. You want to contain the damage. So it's good to see that you also have the same mindset. And then there is also the fundamental. Like some people hate Solana because it's broken and doesn't work. But it's fascinating to look from the outside into some sort of a development. I have nothing but respect for all the projects. If you are someone who's building honestly in crypto, it doesn't matter what you do. It could be XRP, BNB projects I don't necessarily have, but I don't hate, you know. So it's refreshing to speak to someone like you, which is also equally open-minded. It doesn't happen very often, to be honest.
It's unfortunate. I wish it was more the case where more people were open-minded. But yeah, a lot of what you just said there, like if you want to take smaller amounts of money and turn them into bigger amounts of money through crypto, risk management is like, that is numero uno priority. Like if you can successfully navigate that, and the way I do it is I treat all this stuff, I pretend like I'm a poor man's venture capitalist. And so I deploy capital into a bunch of different places outside my Bitcoin position. And I hope that just a couple of them are my unicorns and they take off and they give me those big gains. And I do not care at all if the other ones go to zero. But you have to, be in a place where you can deploy capital. You have to be okay with certain things, not working out. So that's how I do risk management, and also with the percentages I'm deploying and things like that. But yeah, you have to have some kind of plan in this space. If you're just going in purely based off of what you feel or read or see or whatever, you're going to get wrecked, almost certainly, because emotions are incredibly unreliable when it comes to navigating all this. If you're relying on other people to tell you what to do or how to do it or which ones to buy, you're relying on other people to borrow conviction from, you're going to fail because it's not coming from within. Like there's just so many ways to mess this up. And I think if you can take the time to actually think about it yourself and develop some kind of strategy and some kind of plan, that even if it's not the greatest plan in the world, it's still better than the people who go into it purely emotional.
Super well said. I think having a plan will be probably one of my first priority as well. Like you can pivot to the plan, that's fantastic, but at least you need to have a core of an idea on how to move
Yeah.
around it, because otherwise you're competing with people. They have a plan and they stick to it, most likely. So they'll demolish you for sure. Is there anything you would like to say to someone who's about to jump or jumped into the crypto market maybe only a few months ago?
Jump in. And I think if you've already jumped in, congratulations. If you're on the fence, do it. It's one of those things where we like to sit on the sideline. We like to wait and see. And if you wait forever, then you never actually get involved, and then you get to live with regret for the rest of your life, and that's toxic. So if it's something you're interested in, you've thought about, well, then my advice is to just jump in. And like I just said, you're almost certainly at some point going to get wrecked. That's just part of the world of crypto. Unless you just buy Bitcoin and you're you have so much conviction about it that you never sell it, you don't try to trade it, and you just sit on it for years and years and years, you'll probably be just fine. But if you do anything outside of that, you're going to encounter some issues at some point, and you're going to have to learn how to navigate those. And how you do navigate those is kind of everything. So the encouragement there is just don't give up when you do get wrecked, because that's a very valuable lesson. All my best lessons are when I lost lots of money and learned the hard way. So yeah, do that. But really, the encouragement is the more time you spend in the space learning and understanding, the easier all these things gets. The easier the roller coaster of price gets. The easier the long term mindset of instead of the really short term mindset gets. Just taking that time to really, really understand. But like crypto is one of the few spaces in the world, in this modern world we live in, where you can literally take $100 and turn it into $100,000. Now, does that happen to everybody and always and overnight? No, no, no. But those possibilities are real, and they're more real than actual gambling at a casino or the lottery or something like that. And if you're really strategic about how you make those types of bets, where you don't care if that bet goes to zero, but the upside potential is a 1000x or something, and you're doing those in multiple places, and you're going about it in a really strategic and smart way, I've seen lots of people actually do that. And even if it's only a 100x, that's an incredible return. And crypto is one of those few places in the world that offers that kind of an opportunity. So I think it's very much worth investigating, jumping into, getting a bit wrecked, learning some hard lessons, jumping into it again, and just persisting, because I don't know, it's changed my life. I've talked to multiple people whose lives it's changed. It's changed your life, obviously. Those of us who didn't give up, it seems like a common theme that it's made our lives better in some capacity, and we're glad to be here. So I would hate to sit on the sideline and watch other people do those things, and just sit there because you were too afraid to try.
And those lessons you've spoken about, which I completely agree, I've gone through my shares as well. You have to do it. And if you are not doing it, they will represent themselves later on. So let me rephrase it. I would much rather lose $50 now than $50,000 in 2 or 3 years. So welcome them, right? Because at the end of the day, they are teaching you how to pay attention. I have a new habit, which I'll throw it out there. Maybe someone is going to, I don't know, think about using it or whatever. Now, every time I do a transfer from a wallet to another wallet, which any chain can be, when I have to make sure the address is the same, I flip my phone and I focus on that thing. Because even though I've been doing it for years, not long ago I sent funds to the quote wrong address, and you can't call the support, right? So, and if you move $10,000 or $20,000, this is gone forever. And sometimes you get cocky. Oh no, I know I've done it for so long. And here's exactly when you slip, because your confidence kicks in and is like, I know now, I'm the expert, boom. So leave your ego home if you are at office or vice versa. Focus on the task, be with that task, whatever that task might be, because when you think you are the expert, this is where you are more vulnerable because you are maybe multitasking. What I was doing, I was texting someone on the phone and sending the address. Yeah, I've done it so many times, man. This is easy. And then I've done it and I was like, oopsie, now it's gone into the ether and I can't fish it back. I can't claim it back. And I welcome it because, whatever it was, the transaction I, quote, wasted could have been a much higher transaction in 2 or 3 years. So now, even though I do this full time for a number of years, I flip my phone and I say, okay, I'm into this. As much as I'm doing this with you now, I'm not just like talking to you and, texting to someone because that would be extremely rude. So at the same time, operate with crypto. There's many steps. There's many things you can do in between the task you want to achieve. So stay as focused as possible because, it's easy to blink and lose money, right?
That's the horror, and that's the beauty of crypto. You send money, you swipe your credit card somewhere and they reject it. You try to do a bank transfer to another country or something, and they stop it and they block it. That's the traditional system. The upside, though, is if you make a mistake, they can rewind that, whatever. But it's permissioned. If you want to exist in this permissionless world of crypto, the beauty is you can send money to whoever you want, even if that person doesn't want your money. If you have their address, you can send them money without their permission. But the moment you send it, it's final. At finality, it's done. So it's unstoppable, and that's awesome. But yeah, a big encouragement too is just familiarize yourself with best practices when it comes to security. Familiarize yourself with the common scams out there. Truly understand crypto wallets and seed phrases and why you should never share them online or with anybody or anything like that. And the more you educate yourself with that stuff, the better. And then never stop doing that, because just like you said, crypto has this ability to humble even those who feel like they are experts. Because I've made plenty of mistakes. I've fallen for a phishing scam, for example, and had one of my MetaMasks drained. Like, this stuff happens to even those of us who've been in the space for a long time, because these people who have nefarious means, they're always trying to get one step ahead of everybody else, always trying to catch you when your guard is down, and you can't. It's just. So stay vigilant for sure, and stay educated, and that will serve you very well to always be humble and assume that people are kind of out to get you, and then and be proactive.
Yeah, super well said. Is there anything else you would like to add?
This was a really fun conversation. It was really nice to meet you. I appreciate the opportunity to have me on the show.
Yeah, likewise. I had a blast. You are an absolute gentleman. Guys, as a reminder, in the comment down below, I will leave Andy's links. Please go and check him out because I love your channel. I watch all your videos. So make sure you check him out. Otherwise, you will miss out.
I appreciate that. And anybody who wants to come and say hello in the comments of the videos or on Twitter, I'd be happy to say hello back.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Andy. It's been a pleasure to speak to you soon, okay?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it.